Good
We have
morning.
some parents entering in the waiting room still. So we'll give everyone an opportunity to log in and to join us. I also wanted to share with you today that your children can join you. So if you wanted to ask them to join you in our with our guest speaker today, which we'll introduce in a second, there is an opportunity for your children to talk about mindfulness with you and with us, and we will excuse them for their classes. So if you wanted an opportunity to walk through this together with your child, you can go and ask them to join you if they're with you, and we will excuse them from the class that they're on.
Okay, let me check with her.
Sure.
So it's great that you guys have this series.
Yes, so we've been doing this. This is our second year that we've been doing a coffee chat. Some of our PTA board is on this morning with us. So I'm very happy about that. And it seems to be a nice way to interact with, you know, sometimes it's difficult. You know, PTA meetings we found, you know, were at night and not a lot of people were attending, and this kind of gives us another avenue. It's not PTA business, but to focus on needs or issues that arise in the school or that parents have questions about to inform themselves. And we do record it, so it does go out to all of our parent population, even if they're not able to join in the mornings. When we were able to operate in person, we were having a traditional coffee chat where we could have some coffee and bagels and sit and discuss together. And, you know, we did have to pivot for the world we live in right now, but it seems to be working well. I know that some of you went to go ask your children if they would want to join you. Just to reiterate, if your children want to join you today for our conversation, they are more than welcome, and we will excuse them from class. So my name is Jen Blevins. I'm the principal of Woodrow Wilson, and I'm glad to see all of you joining us today. We do have a guest speaker with us today. And I will let Ms. Sedler, who organizes our coffee chats, introduce our guest speaker. But our PTA coffee chats, I think some of you just heard me say this, are for our parent population to connect with our educators and on topics about education, to be able to have a forum to ask questions and to educate ourselves so that we can better support all of our students. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sedler for the rest of the programming.
Thanks, Ms. Blevins. Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to see everybody back here today. Some familiar faces from our earlier coffee chats. The reason why we wanted to focus, have an emphasis on mindfulness today is because as your students have been learning from home, you might have noticed some of them participating in mindfulness experiences with their classroom teachers. And so no, they're not taking a nap in the middle of class, and no, they're not just closing their eyes because they're daydreaming, but a lot of times they are participating in a mindfulness experience to help bring back their focus on what's going on in their classrooms, whether that be in person or virtually. So we have invited Dr. Jim Hanlon to join us this morning. He is from the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Center of New Jersey, which is locally in Metuchen. And he has an immense experience in terms of mindfulness education and education as a whole. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Hanlon, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, welcome everyone. I don't know if you can see me or not, but if you can, that's great. And I'm just sort of taking a look at everybody. Terrific group. So I'm going to talk about mindfulness, but I'm going, before I define it or do anything, I'm going to give you the experience of mindfulness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sound, and when you can no longer hear the sound, raise your hand. Okay, that's mindfulness. That's the experiential definition. Paying attention on purpose, without judgment, and possibly with affection. So that's what it is. It's paying attention. So let's start with what we would call a sitting meditation. And this has been practiced at the school. So the nice thing to know about the sitting as we begin this is it's just a sitting. The Japanese call it that. As a matter of fact, it's just sitting, just simply sitting. So if you would, just comfortably sitting in place, closing your eyes. And you'll notice when you close your eyes, just like the sound that we heard, there's a soundscape. There's sound going on where you are. So listening. And with any kind of meditation, we're receiving. We don't have to do anything. That's the great secret. We didn't have to do anything with the sound of that chime. We just had to listen. So we're not doing anything, we're just receiving. After all, we're human beings. We have this capacity to be as well as active. We don't call ourselves human doings, we call ourselves human beings. So then we're listening. And the second thing that we're doing, which we don't do, but we have to do, which is breathing. And we know how important breathing is in this environment of COVID. So the breath is there. So again, we're receiving it. We're not doing that with the mind. So we're listening, and now we're noticing that we're breathing. And just like we brought the attention to the chime, we can bring the attention to the breath. The in-breath, and with the out-breath, just letting go completely. So we're not changing the breath in any way, we're receiving the breath. We're not doing anything, we're paying attention, just like we did with the chime. So in-breath, and then we're just letting the breath go out. And when we're watching or paying attention to the breath going out, we're letting go. We're allowing ourselves to really let go with that out breath, sink more fully into the chair. And if you wish, you can sense your feet on the ground. Feet are touching the planet, touching the earth. The Native American Indian tradition called this kissing the earth, letting your feet actually kiss the earth. And if you wish, you can put your hands, palms down on your thigh, and touching that, it reinforces, if you wish, the feet on the ground, the sensation of that. So these things are anchors: the soundscape, the breath, and the feet on the ground. We're in a body, we're embodied beings. So we're breathing. And we're just letting go with that out breath, present here. And all we have is the present. The past is not here, except in memory. And the future, which contains all kinds of fantasies as well as anxiety. Mark Twain said terrible, terrible things happen to him over and over in life, but only 1/8 of them actually happened. So we're here in the now. And if it's not happening in the now, it's not happening. So we can come back to this now. this presence, present here, right now, allowing, and with the out breath, just letting go. The way, again, we allowed the sound. We followed that sound. We didn't need any instruction to do that. We just followed it out. Now we're following the breath, letting go. And thoughts are coming. Perhaps like, dislike, just thoughts. Because that's what the mind does. The moment we wake up, the mind starts thinking. You can't prevent it. So during a meditation, thoughts are going to come. But thoughts are events. They're not facts. So we let them come. And we don't have to push them away or feel sorry about them or not want them. They're all part of the process. Every time you meditate, you'll have thoughts. And you just bring the attention back to the feet on the ground or to the breath or to the soundscape, whatever's most comfortable for you. And you begin again, because we always have to begin again. And we let go, present. And the body actually is in the present. So we can always come back to the body, to the feet on the ground, to the anchor. So taking, again, a moment as we go through this guided meditation. And then when you're ready, we can open the eyes and process this a little bit. So I'll ask the big question, how was it? How many people feel a little bit more relaxed? If you raise your hand, I can see you. I'm following along. Good. Good. This, however, is not about relaxation. It's about actually paying attention. But with the paying attention, what can happen is, as a byproduct, is we let go. We're present. So, okay, how many people had thoughts? How many people had thoughts? Okay, they're part of the process, right? You got up this morning and you were thinking, so you're never going to get rid of thoughts. This idea that you have to sit in a yoga position and, you know, like you have, like Time magazine comes out with an article and you have usually a blonde sitting in a lotus position, and, you know, people think, oh, it's blanking the mind, it's doing this, it's doing that. No, it's receiving. It's a complete misunderstanding, the idea that you have to do anything. As I say, we're human beings, and this is something that we have as our heritage. And many of you from different cultures know this is part of cultures all the way around the world. This is not something that's new. Might be new in America since, let's say, the 50s or 60s, but it's been common to many cultures in the world. So this is a capacity that we have, and a really useful one in a time of COVID. And when we're on Zoom, that was about, let's say, that was about 7 or 8 minutes, 9 minutes maybe. So it's a nice COVID break, to just sit. The sound's always there. Even now, with our eyes open, that's another myth, that we have to have the eyes closed. So right now we can hear the soundscape, right? And we can come in contact with the breath. By the way, for emotional purposes, the breath is it. The breath is key. So, you know, if you have a kid out of control, or if you yourself are on the edge of going out of control, come to the breath. In fact, a whole mindfulness practice is watching your breath. In front of Zoom, there's a lot of research now. It was done originally with emails and stuff, is apnea. Some of you may know that research where people's breath changes, right? It's like you've heard of sleep apnea. So you have Zoom apnea. There's been several articles on Zoom apnea. So it's important. The breath's important. And the other thing is we have bodies, and the bodies are in the now. They're present. So if we can stay in touch with the body, then again, that's another practice. All right, let's take a couple of questions, and then I'm going to add something to this practice. I'm going to add a loving kindness dimension, which also is helpful in terms of social emotional development and being able to calm oneself in the face of COVID. Okay, so any questions? No one has questions? You can just raise your hand. And I guess, Wendy, can you unmute Natalie?
Oh, I used to mute myself. Could you hear me, Dr. Hanlon?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question. I mean, I know with a lot of parents these days, you know, they're running around, they're really busy, especially those working from home. I know this practice you just did is convenient, but sometimes it's really hard to like get up in the morning and start just breathing. You have so many things to do. Like, what would you, I mean, is it best to do it at night or before you go to bed? Or is it better to do this breathing in the morning before you start your day?
Okay, it's a great question. So what I would suggest is this is 8 or 9 minutes. So we're not going off to a monastery. We're not going into any trance. You find your 8.5 minutes, maybe between whatever you're doing during the day, right? And then you just sit, you listen, right? And then you breathe, and that's it. That's all. That's the whole thing. That's the practice. You don't have to do, you know, you've got all the doing. So what you need is a little bit of the being. And this will be a break. It's like taking a break, except it's not a coffee break. You'd have your coffee afterwards if you wanted, or before. So everybody has 10 minutes or 15 minutes where they can just set this aside for them. And when we do the next practice, you'll see something that you can actually add to this that's also helpful. So does that answer your question, or is it helpful?
That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Good question. How about other questions? No other questions. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Go ahead.
No problem. So you walked us through the exercise. However, you know, some of us are at home or we're busy and we may forget the different steps that you explained. Is there anywhere, you know, an app or, you know, a place that you would suggest a resource that you would suggest we look if we're trying to remember what steps to go through?
Well, you're recording this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clip off the recordings of the practices.
Okay.
And then send them out. People
Okay.
can just put them on their smartphones or wherever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they can have it as a video and they just put it on. It's totally guided. It's your material now.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I would suggest, you know, as if you can do a little of this every day, it'll really make a difference. And your kids have gotten some of this stuff in their classroom, so you can sit with them. Let's take a little break. Let's take a human being break. Okay, so any other questions? So thank you, Jennifer, for that one. Other questions? No other questions. All right, let's extend this practice a little bit. So again, you get yourself comfortable. We're sitting, and notice, sensing just with your eyes open that, okay, I'm sitting and my feet are on the ground. And can I find the soundscape? So just closing your eyes. And it's possible to keep the eyes open, but the nice thing about closing the eyes is that you just let go. You let go of any sensory information coming through the eyes. And you go to the sound. And everyone has an individual soundscape, wherever you happen to be. And so, again, you'll notice, if you just sit, that you're breathing. And with the out breath, letting go. And you don't have to do the thought's gonna come. And the thought could be anything. It could be, what time is it? It could be your day, what's coming up. It could be thoughts about what's already happened in your day. Okay, they're all events. They're not facts. They're not happening right now. What's happening right now is you're here. You're present to the now. And so taking in a nice breath, and with the out breath, letting go, sensing your feet on the ground, getting familiar with here, with paying attention. Again, the definition, paying attention, moment by moment, breath by breath, to each moment, and without judgment, without like or dislike, and with some affection. And I'll ring the chime again with the eyes closed and just following this now. Paying attention. Kind of effortless paying attention. And noticing that we're here, present, and present to each other. So there's a practice called loving kindness, which I'm going to do with you now. And so with an out breath, sinking more fully into the body, I'll start. May you be safe. May you be safe from all external and internal harm. May you be happy, peaceful, and calm. May you be healthy as you can possibly be. May you live with ease and with joy. And now bringing to your attention, visualizing someone that you don't know, but maybe a mailman, someone who does a service, or someone that you stop and get coffee from, or someone in a grocery store that you see, but you really don't know. And bringing them to mind, visualizing them. And it could be anyone. May you be safe. May you be safe from all internal and external harm. May you be happy. May you be happy, peaceful, and calm. May you be healthy as you can possibly be. May you live your life with ease and with joy. And bringing to mind now the entire community, educational community, Woodrow Wilson community, all the children, all the parents, and all the wonderful educators. May we be safe. May we be safe from all external and internal harm. May we be healthy. May we be as healthy as we can possibly be. May we live our lives with ease and with joy. And now back to the breathing. Back that you're sitting in the chair, feet on the ground. And with the out breath, letting go. And then when you're ready, we can come back and process this. So how was it? Natalie?
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I have a question. I know you mentioned when we do these exercises, you refer to thoughts. Now, I actually like to clear my mind of anything when I do something like this. I don't want to think about any thoughts. I don't want to, have anything in my head at the moment. Just kind of clearing everything and then kind of enjoying the breathing, the relaxation of the whole exercise. Now, is there a reason why you say like, do you ask that question, like, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, because when you're clearing, you're doing. You're not allowing, you're not letting go. So what you're doing is you're making it the way you want it to be. You're injecting, if you want, ego or whatever. You're trying to control it in some way. They're already here. The real secret to any good meditation, ancient times on, is you're a human being. So you just allow. And allowing allows you just to let go at much deeper levels. So thoughts are part of what the mind does, but we're not our minds. Think of all the things that come into your mind. The Mark Twain quote that I had. Mark Twain said he suffered terribly. And only maybe an eighth of what he suffered from really happened. The rest was all stuff that just came through thoughts, through thinking that the thoughts were facts. So we're not our breath. We're not our thoughts, right? We're something else. We have this other possibility. And so when you try to do something, the key is trying. This is effortless. This is just like it was when I had the chime. You just let it happen. And so that's the key to this form of mindfulness. This is mindfulness-based stress reduction. So there's a lot of, fake mindfulness and stuff, but this is the real deal. All right, so you're okay?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and the experience, trust your experience with this. You couldn't go this deep if you were trying to do it, because the mind would be focused with the thoughts. And in fact, in the Asian cultures, mindfulness also means heartfulness. So the symbol for mindfulness in Chinese, for example, is heart over mind. Okay, good. Other questions? A great question. You're good. Now to ask a good question. All right, other questions or comments about this? Yes, Gayatri. Gayatri.
Yep. Yes, my name is Gayatri. Hi.
Gayatri. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The A
So,
is silent. Gayatri. All right.
yes. So I just wanted to add to what question was asked by Natalie. So how do you, are you suggesting that the thoughts, like how you quoted Mark Twain, so if thoughts are going to be more suffering for us because not everything comes true, so how do we control the mind, or how do you control thoughts? Will mindfulness eventually help in the process, or is there something which can be faster, which we can do to control thoughts?
Okay. So this is the nub of the whole thing. You can't control thoughts. Thoughts are going to happen. You get up before you even knew anything. Your kids, when they get up in the morning, they're thinking. That's what the mind does. Just like that's what the body breathes. You don't do that. The body listens. You don't do that, right? So what the mind does is the mind's very useful for an analysis. The mind's very useful for particular things, but it's not so useful for anxiety. It's not so useful for all that stuff. And if we identify with the mind, then we're identifying and trying to control all that stuff. Whereas if we use the mind properly, for learning, for development, for planning, for all those kinds of things that the mind's very good at, that the body's not so hot at, and the breath's terrible at. So these capacities have their own intelligence. The problem is we think we're our minds. And we're actually something much, much deeper. And that's why we call ourselves human beings and not human doings. So thoughts are there. They're always going to be there. So fine, they're events. Think of them as events coming, because you don't know when you're sitting, and you certainly don't want to act on things that are coming while you're sitting. And if it's anxiety, you can say, oh, that's anxiety. Okay, fine. Come back to the breath, come back to the feet on the ground, come back to the soundscape, and begin again. You always have to begin again. The greatest yogis, they always begin again.
So if I get that right, do we divert ourselves, knowing that those are anxiety, and make more productive use of the thoughts? Is that what you were trying to?
No, when you're sitting, you're 10 minutes. You're giving yourself 10 or 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If thoughts come during those 10 or 15 minutes, they're just thoughts. They're just events. All right? The rest of your day is the rest of your day. But give your mind a break for that period of time. Let it do whatever it wants. You just come back to your breath. All right? You begin to develop your being part.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right? You don't
Thank
have
you.
to do anything. All day you're controlling. Right? All day you're dealing with this. All day you're managing. Here's a break.
Or we try to control.
Yeah, we try to control. Exactly. That's what Mark Twain's talking about.
Right.
Right? So, okay. So we cut ourselves a break and we say, okay, for these 15 minutes, they're just going to come. But I'm going to let them come. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm just breathing. I'm letting myself be a human being. And then see what happens.
Okay.
See what happens.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jim. You really explained it very well. And Gayatri, I like the question you asked because, oftentimes when we sit down, these thoughts always keep coming to our mind. So Jim, I really liked what you said, to be in the present and come back to that moment, or, focusing on a soundscape. If thoughts come, you focus on your breathing, or you focus on the sound you're hearing. that automatically, I think, brings us back in the moment and thoughts slowly go away. But Natalie, also what you said, I think from what I'm gathering, Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we are not to fight these thoughts that are coming in,
That's
right?
right.
We just let them come in and bring ourselves back to the moment by focusing on our breathing or focusing on the sounds that we are hearing.
Right. Because mindfulness is paying attention. And we paid attention today with the mind, right? We were attentive, but also with the heart, with the loving kindness. Notice how the heart opens. How many felt their heart open or felt more expansive as a result of those affirmations? Yeah. So it's important, this balance, and to give yourself this time. What's 15 minutes out of a whole day where you just let go?
Dr. Hanlon, do you have any tips? I mean, I think as adults, we can see value in this practice, and we can see value in kind of closing out the chaos of our day for a few minutes a day. How do we encourage kids to want to do this as well?
Just by not putting any pressure on them. Doing some simple stuff. Maybe you'll have me back some point and I'll do things specifically for kids. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that you can do. For example, this thing with the chimes. That's perfect. I use that a lot with grammar school kids. They loved it. 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. They could follow the sound. And you know what? They have better hearing, so they do it much better. Their hands are the last always to go up, so they feel they really have achieved something wonderful, as they can do this better than the adults. So, the thing is, they let them see what you're doing. Let them be in the environment with that. But there's also all kinds of stuff you can do in movement. So, and this is short. We do teach the public. I do a lot of teaching at Rutgers. I have taught medical students at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. Currently teaching rising, I guess they're MDs, but they're psychiatric residents. So they're going to be psychiatrists in there. So I've got a group that I'm meeting with this afternoon that I meet with weekly. These practices are things that can be learned and over time, and that's what we teach at our meditation center and now on Zoom. So if you're interested in us, we're at mindfulnessnj.com, and we offer courses to the public on Tuesday nights. We have a course going on now. We'll have another course going on in June. And it's a real deep dive into all this material.
I added the link in the chat for anyone who's interested.
Good. And we're right in Metuchen. Of course, we're not in our offices now. We don't meet in person, but eventually we will. And we've been in business since 2004 here in the Metuchen area. All right, other questions? Other thoughts? This is something that I've studied my whole life. When I was, I'll give you a little bit of my history. When I was 17, I felt something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. So when I graduated from high school, the day after, I was taken to a monastery. My parents, I don't know how they ever did it. They signed a paper so that I could go. So I spent 17 through 21 in a Catholic monastery in the Catskills. And then I realized what I wanted wasn't there, so I left. I had the feeling that what I wanted what had been lost. And so I turned to the East, and I studied with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the period of time when he was with the Beatles and so forth. So Maharishi taught me lots and lots of stuff. So I learned with him. And then when Maharishi passed away, I went to UMass Medical School and studied with John Kabat-Zinn, who's really the person who's brought mindfulness to the world, really. He's the one who's started the mindfulness-based stress reduction center at UMass Medical. And so he taught me and my wife and I directly, and we started, since we live in this area, the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Center of New Jersey in 2004. And we've been teaching the public since 2004, so 17 years. And so, you know, we've trained a lot of the psychologists, a lot of the medical doctors, a lot of the educators in New Jersey as a result. So we were the first mindfulness center in New Jersey. And we've done a lot of work with educational institutions. I have a doctorate in educational administration and 60 credit masters also from Columbia University in counseling psychology. And my wife is a clinical psychologist. So, so we were involved in a lot of different networks. So that's basically my history. And I followed my passion, and I've had what the kids call a very fun life. So, you know, that's an important thing, to find who you are and the direction that you want. This is real education, right? To find out where you're going and to find a place where you can be happy, where every day you get up and you're ready to go, and there's that passion to really be alive. I mean, to be in the now. Like, you miss your life. If you're not present, your life is missing. I would bet with anyone that if you think of your life, you'll come back to moments, the important moments in your life you were present. You weren't trying to control them. You were present to those moments in your life. And I guess what I'm saying is that more of those moments are available to you if you practice. You don't have to make them happen. You will be present for things and present for your kids. And they pick up something from this as long as you don't force it on them. Right? You allow it, you have fun. I have fun presenting these things to people. Okay, any further questions, comments?
I just want to thank you so much for your time today. This is just, I found it very valuable, especially, you know, with how much stress and anxiety everyone's feeling right now with the world we're living in. And I'm hoping that I can include my children in some of these practices in my own personal life, because I know that my daughter experiences anxiety, especially dealing with virtual learning. Yeah. So I thank you today. I thank you for your time. I thank you to the parents who are able to join us. Hopefully we can clip those recordings and send them out. I think this would be helpful in any environment, whether it's at home or even for our teachers to use with the classes. So I thank you, Jim, for your time today, and hopefully we can have you back at Woodrow soon.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Wendy, for having me, and all of the parents who attended, terrific. So practice, that's all I can say. The whole key to everything is practice. 15 minutes, give yourself 15 minutes. Take it as a Zoom break or whatever. But if you do it, you'll see something happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.